I call Claire Curran.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to speak in this debate because the member opposite is a fraud.
The member, that's a very unparliamentary comment to make. I'll ask the member to withdraw and apologise for that.
I withdraw and apologise.
Claire Curran.
Mr. Speaker, what we'd like to hear from the member opposite, the list national member who lives in Dunedin, for him to go down to Dunedin and tell the people of Hillside what he thinks. He has sat around a table for 18 months telling the workers, telling the union, telling the Dunedin City Council and the Chamber of Commerce how much he supports Hillside. And now we hear basically a story of collusion, which is about how to construct a story. How to construct a story that was what we're seeing on that side of the House that is going to paint the work that is done by the workers in Hillside and Woburn and rail engineering in this country as being somehow unaffordable and outside of the quality, what did he call it, price, quality and timeliness that somehow they can't meet. And yet I have heard him say face to face at those meetings how much he believes that workforce and that the rail engineering business, how much it can deliver. And now we're hearing today that he doesn't believe it can. Well, that, Mr. Speaker, is the fraud of this, and that...
A point of order, Michael Woodhouse.
Mr. Speaker, she may not have said it, but it's very clear from her earlier comments who that comment was directed at, and I would again ask that she withdraw and apologise.
I'll just caution the member in speaking. These terms can cause concern to members of the House, and I'll ask that in future you just bear that in mind. Claire Curran.
Mr. Speaker, 41 skilled jobs are being lost at Hillside right now because of that government's lack of investment in its own workforce, in its own nation. And instead it wants to purchase rail from outside of New Zealand for lowest cost, doubtful quality and doubtful timeliness. And that is the collusion which I spoke of, because there's a story being developed down at Hillside to make out as if the workers can't produce the product when we know that they can, and when that member, the National Party list member who happens to live in Dunedin, knows it too. 41 jobs, 41 families, 41 incomes that are going to be lost to Dunedin. And we heard today in question time again from the Prime Minister that 170,000 jobs are miraculously going to be produced in this country in the next 4 years. He can't say where they're coming from. All of the ministers that I've seen come before the select committee that I sit on haven't been able to say where they come from, including David Carter, who's the Acting Minister for Economic Development, who was asked specifically what analysis has been done of the sectors that those jobs will come from. He said none. No analysis has been done because it's a mirage. It's making stuff up. And what this government is doing and what that member is doing is making stuff up and making a case so that the workforce, the skilled workforce in New Zealand that has produced trains, has the skills to do it, won't be able to do it anymore and will close down as a result. And he will be accountable on that issue. And I dare him to come to another one of those meetings, and I dare him to go to Cargill Enterprises tomorrow night at 7 o'clock and face to face tell the people there what he really thinks. And what he's been doing over the last few months is talking out of both sides of his mouth on this issue. And yes, it makes me angry, and so it should. And it should make the people of Dunedin angry, and the workers at Hillside. Mr. Speaker, what Kiwis want is security, they want jobs, and they want skilled jobs. And as you've heard, John Key and his ministers can't give a credible answer. The Minister for Tourism, the Associate Minister for Tourism, Jonathan Coleman, he came before the Select Committee last week. He was asked where the jobs are going to come from, what analysis. He hummed and hawed for a few minutes and then said, maybe around about 5,000. Most of them are going to be in low-skilled, low-wage areas, and the ones that aren't probably going to last very long. They won't be permanent. Then there's the Minister for Communications and IT, who's handing over $1 billion of New Zealanders' taxpayers' money to Telecom, a monopoly, brought forward in this year's budget. Concerns have been raised in the last few days about the level of skilled workforce needed to roll out his ultra-fast broadband scheme, and he breezily replied, don't worry about that, there's no issue with skills, and if there is, well, we'll fix it themselves. Instead, the training standards body raised in the last couple of days and questioned whether there would be enough skilled workers to service and maintain the government's billion-dollar fibre and internet network. They set the standards for telecommunications workers. They say the sector needs to think about training staff now rather than waiting until they're needed. They said, and they warned, that the industry may have to look to relying on overseas workers if needed because the skills weren't being developed now. What did the Minister for Communications and Information Technology say? He breezily said, no, there's no immediate skills shortage, and if funding's required, well, we'll make it available. Not interested in actually looking at the facts. And so he's been asked to come clean on whether Telecom will be employing a low-wage foreign workforce through a company such as Vision Stream, which started this practice 2 years ago and which was fought tooth and nail by the workers and by the union around this. Whether this is the plan, whether Telecom, in order to roll out ultra-fast broadband at the price that they are doing it, actually needs to bring in a foreign workforce who aren't as skilled and who are prepared to work for less money. So we have asked whether he can confirm whether the government will actually commit to Kiwi jobs, because this government doesn't commit to Kiwi jobs. Where is this government committing to Kiwi jobs? Perhaps on a cycle way with around about a couple of hundred jobs. That's over 2.5 years. Where are the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of jobs that are supposed to be miraculously being produced in this economy? Where are they? And that's what I'd like to hear from the people across the way, rather than them running down the skills of our workforce, rather than running down the skills of our rail engineering workforce at Hillside, and rather than the minister opposite talking out of both sides of his mouth on the issue, being supportive when he's in Dunedin and coming to this house and saying that basically we can't deliver on price, we can't deliver on quality, and we can't deliver on timeliness. Go down to Dunedin and tell the people of Dunedin what you really think. There is no plan. There is no plan for skilled jobs. That government has no plan, and there will be no plan, and 170,000 jobs are supposed to somehow miraculously appear in the next 4 years, and I'd like to know what sectors they're coming from, who's actually driving them, what sort of jobs they're going to be, what kind of pay levels they're going to be, and what investment in skills there is happening right now on them, because this government, this Minister for Communications and Information Technology doesn't believe we've got an issue with skills, despite the organisation that licenses those skills and trains them saying there is a problem. Well, somebody's got it wrong. So I'd like to hear from the people opposite what they think about that. So there is no plan, and in the meantime there is 41 skilled workers with families and good incomes losing their jobs in Dunedin right now. Jobs that won't be replaced. What will they do? They'll either leave Dunedin or they'll go offshore, because Australia is recruiting them. Australian firms, as the member across the way knows, Australian firms have been in Dunedin recruiting rail engineering workers because they're building trains over there.
Sorry, I can interrupt the honourable member. Her time has expired. Call Chester Burrows.